It is now my
I,
privilege to introduce our esteemed guest, Ms. Vickie Ozburn, ma'am. She is currently serving as MGA Vice Chair, GUOS 2025-2026, IEEE TEMS Marketing Chair, and Member at Large 2026, IEEE Women's in Engineering ILC 2026 Co-Chair, and IEEE HTB Events Chair, and is also the past IEEE Region 4 Director. Ma'am, welcome to the podcast. It's truly a pleasure to have you with us today.
thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before we dive into the discussion, I would love to start by getting to know a bit about your journey in the IEEE, ma'am.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was a non-traditional student, so I didn't get my first degree until after 10 years after I graduated from high school. So I wasn't involved in any of the college clubs or activities or groups like IEEE. I actually learned about IEEE through a conference that I went to that was hosted by our local section, and I volunteered to help organize that conference. And I was on that committee for about 3 years before a couple of the other gentlemen convinced me to join IEEE. And they actually paid for my membership the first year to get me involved. And I've been involved ever since then for the past 20 years. I actually helped organize and lead that conference for 17 years. And the section still holds that professional development conference. And it was that just getting involved in the section and learning more about IEEE that really got me engaged. And, I served locally at the section as the treasurer, the vice chair, the chair. Um, and then I had a couple mentors that I mentioned that I worked with on that conference, and they encouraged me to get involved in the region level. And at that time, Karen Peterson was our region director, and she invited me to come be the membership development chair. So I did that get involved. And then I was asked to run for director. I wasn't sure what I was getting involved in. I didn't know what that really meant when I was asked to do that. And it's just kind of grown from there. Like I said, I've been volunteering for 20 years, and every day I learn more. Has so many different parts, opportunities, members, that there's so many things you can do to help give back to your community and to grow and learn. So I've just found it very beneficial, and it's really helped me in my work as well with a lot of the skills that I learned in my volunteer roles.
That's really inspiring, ma'am. Thank you for this.
Sure.
Ma'am, my
Yes.
first question for you is that looking back, when did you first experience engineering under real world constraint, not just theory?
Um, I think it was, well, my first degree, excuse me, was actually in business. And I was working at Rockwell Collins at the time, and I was an engineering lab manager. And my manager thought if I was leading engineers, I should have some type of a technical degree or some type of engineering degree. So he encouraged me to go back to school, and I got my software engineering degree. And then I worked on a software development team for a while. And that's really when I got involved in seeing how the technical skills and the engineering skills and the leadership skills all kind of work together, because you need to have that common language to be able to, talk with your peers or talk with your employees. And I thought that was very important. It's just those soft skills that you learn along the way to tie that in with your engineering skills or development skills.
That's really interesting, man. Building on that, what was the biggest gap you noticed between classroom learning and real world engineering challenges?
I think it's just understanding how to communicate and working with your peers, that teamwork to ask for guidance. I think it's really important, and I know schools are doing it more, having students work as groups or work as teams to solve problems and issues. And it's that team building skills that I think are critical. that really help you grow your career and make you stand out when you get into the real world business. You know, just being able to work with teams and across different organizations. You know, a lot of large companies like Collins Aerospace, they have silos, and you have to learn to work across those silos. And it's just those communication skills and networking skills that I think are very critical.
Yes, ma'am. And in IEEE, that's what we are doing also.
Yes.
Now, moving into the core of our discussion, ma'am. When we say engineering under real world constraint, what does that actually mean in practice?
I'm sorry.
Am I
Engineering what?
audible?
Yes.
Engineering,
Please repeat.
when we say engineering under real world constraints, what does that actually means in practice?
Oh boy. I think it's just being able to take what you've learned in school and applying it to the real world, whether it's the technical skills, the communication skills, um, and just working closely with others, whether they're your peers or maybe it's someone that's your mentor or your sponsor. I think it's important to have both of those in your career, and just to build on those skills and take the real world experiences and apply those back to both your IEEE career and your professional career.
That's a great perspective, ma'am. Diving a bit deeper, what kind of constraint most strongly influence engineering decision in aerospace systems?
A lot of it has to do with whatever technology is kind of new. We do a lot of um, very diverse work at Collins. We have equipment that's been out in the field for 30 years that we still support, and we're also developing frontline cutting edge AI tools, or new cockpit or new communication tools. So it's very diverse, and there's a lot of different things that you can do, and you can grow your skills across all those different technologies, because whether it's analog or digital or whatever it may be that you're looking at, being able to apply the skills across those dimensions, I think, are important.
Okay. So, ma'am, my next question for you is that how do engineers balance safety, cost, and timeliness when all three are criticals?
That is a important skill, and it's one that you have to learn. I think that type of a skill is something that you learn by trial and error. You have to learn how to prioritize your work. And I'm a list person, so I'm always making lists about what needs to be done when. And, I feel a lot of satisfaction when I cross something off the list and I accomplish something. But I think that just takes practice and it takes time. And it's something that I encourage you, especially new in your career, to work with a mentor that you notice has those skills so you can develop them, because they just don't appear. You have to really practice and time management, and like you said, putting, whether it's safety critical or whatever the issue might be. You might have a customer that wants their delivery yesterday. You have to learn how to balance those things, and you have to make the right ethical decisions for yourself and your employer. But I think that's something that you really should, when you start new in your career, find a mentor that can help you with that and develop those skills and understand what's important, especially to the different organizations that you work for.
Okay, ma'am. So, in such environments, how do you decide what's good enough versus what's ideal?
Um, we always strive for the ideal. I mean, if you work in any type of an engineering field, you have requirements and specifications that the customer has provided you. You have testing that you need to do, and you need to make sure that you follow all your quality policies. And I think it's critical that you take ownership, and that you put quality and your customer first, because you never know where your equipment might end up, and you want to make sure that you're not introducing any harm anywhere. You want to make sure that you're providing them with the best product that you can. And I think it's okay to raise your hand and question and ask if you're doing the right thing or if there's something more you can do. I think that's part of your responsibility as a good employee.
That's a great perspective, ma'am. And how does that change when constraint becomes tighter?
Oh, that's a hard question, I think. You have to just learn how to balance those things and trust in your decisions and trust in your coworkers and your leadership to make the right decisions. Um, and again, I think it comes with experience. The more experience you have and the more you ask questions and observe others, I think the more you're going to learn and be able to make those good decisions.
Building on that, ma'am, does
Hmm.
pressure from deadlines or cost ever conflict with engineering judgment?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Luckily, I've never been in that position. You hear stories where people make the bad choice because, they're getting pressured to deliver something or they've got a short timeline. Um, I hope none of you are ever put in that position because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you make the wrong decision. I've always been. I'd rather stand up for what I think is right, and as opposed to delivering something that I know is not right. I guess it's an ethical question you have to ask yourself, and hope that you would always do the right thing.
So the next thing is that, ma'am, can you walk us through a real decision where constraint shaped the outcome?
Sure. I was given what my manager called a mid-year opportunity. We had a failing project that I was asked to take over, and we had a timeline that we had to hit, and we were taking 5 or 6 different corrective action tools that were being used across the company and creating one. So I had to bring all these diverse groups together and get them to agree on a set of requirements. And it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of saying no or tell me why or, show me where your contract says you have to do that type of thing. But just by keeping that communication open, by bringing in someone from each of those groups and not just making the decision in a small team, we were able to finally work through everything and we were able to deliver the tool that we needed on time and under budget. So I think a lot has to do with just communicating and getting the right people on the bus, so to say.
That shows your dedication towards your work. How do experienced engineers approach uncertainty when there's no perfect solution?
I think, again, it's just experience and something that you learn through your career. I think you should always keep an open mind and be willing to ask questions. That's what you have peers for. That's what you have leaders for. That's what you have mentors for, is to ask those questions, ask for guidance to help you when you have to make those type of decisions. I don't think it's something you should just blindly do yourself. I'm big on teamwork and working with others and asking. I'd rather ask for help than do something wrong.
So, ma'am, now moving to some real experience and stories. Can you share a situation where real world constraint forced a difficult engineering trade off?
I'm sorry, an engineering trade-off.
Ma'am, a situation where you have to like sacrifice something from the engineering task.
Um, I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry.
Uh, should I repeat this again, ma'am?
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Can you share a situation where real world constraint forced a difficult engineering trade off to you?
Um, I don't know that I've had to face that. In software development, I didn't really have too many trade-offs that I needed to make because of the software I was working on. I'm sure the situation comes up and you have to make those trade-off decisions, but I really don't have an example that I can talk to on that because of my limited experience with those situations.
Okay. So moving to the next question, ma'am. Was there a time when constraint lead to an unexpected but better solution?
I think um, I'm trying to think of an example. Um, again, I only spent a few years in software development before I went back into a leadership role. Um, I really cannot think of an example. I apologize.
Okay, it's okay, ma'am. So the next question for you is that have you seen cases where ignoring constraint cause problem later?
Yes, we do a lot of um, manufacturing, and if you don't understand the constraints that you have, you end up with bottlenecks in the process, and you may end up introducing errors into your manufacturing process, or you're going to impact your deadline to your customers. Um, so I think it's important to pay attention to those constraints and understand what they are. And if you notice something, make sure you say something so you can get others in there to walk that process with you, so you can look at the process, identify those constraints or any other limitations or issues that you have, so that you can improve your process. If there's a constraint there, you need to work to find a way around it, or to mitigate it, or put something else in place.
Okay, ma'am. That's a very great thing that I think you have said. Then, and on a more human side of engineering, how do engineers handle the responsibility of making decisions that affect real people?
I think when you go into engineering, you understand that that's part of what you're going to be doing. You're developing solutions or products or um, tools that people are going to use every day. And you need to understand the impact that you have um, on both a person's life. I mean, depending on what you're developing, if you're working on something that's going to go in an aircraft or, in an automobile. Um, but I think that's something that engineers understand, that what they're doing has an impact on humanity. And I hope that that's something that is encouraged in education, to make engineers aware of that and the impacts that they can have. Um, and that that's part of their ethical decision making process, I guess, to make sure that they understand the impacts that they're going to have for both themselves and humanity.
It's all about knowing your people's, like the product you are making for the people, what it is
Yes,
about.
yes.
So now coming to the student perspective, ma'am, why do students struggle to understand real world constraint early in their journey, according to you?
I think a lot of it has to do with just not having opportunities yet to experience what might cause some of those constraints or issues. And I think the more that students get involved with IEEE or other activities, um, they learn um, about different skills they can grow and develop, and they can find mentors, I guess, mentors and sponsors through the IEEE that can help them when they have those situations or have those questions. So I think it's important, and I've mentioned this a few times, just to make sure that you've got someone you could talk to, someone you can bounce ideas off of. And I think IEEE can provide that for students in a very diverse way.
And for connecting student with the real world leaders like you, we are doing this podcast series.
Yeah,
Ma'am, my next question for you is that what can students start doing today to think beyond ideal solutions?
I think just getting involved and, IEEE has a lot of different ways that you can grow your skills. And whether you're doing workshops or webinars or you present posters at a conference, I think those are all opportunities to grow your skills and network um, and apply what you learned outside of school back to your school work. You can learn a lot of skills that others may not have, and that helps set you apart when you go to apply for an internship or when you go to apply for a job. If you've had these interactions and you've had these skills that they don't teach in school, I think it's important to take advantage of that, and that
That
helps you.
and I think, ma'am, that's what IEEE do for the students.
Yes.
So, ma'am, my next question for you is that how can students train themselves to make decision under limitations?
I think that, again, just comes from experience, from working with others. And I think if you work with, say, your student branch and, you want to do an activity, but you might have limitations on your funding or the time or, some other limitations. It's learning how to work through those things and ask the right questions. And I think just getting involved and learning by doing, I think that'll really help the students with those skills and to become better students and better um, people in general.
And can you share one of an incident of yourself where you have faced something like this in your early stage of your career?
Um, when I faced constraints,
Yes, ma'am.
um, well, like I said, I was a non-traditional student, so I had two children when I went back to school. So, that puts a lot of constraints and limitations on your time you can spend studying and on working. And um, I think it was learning those skills, balancing that work and life and school that really taught me some skills that I could use at work when I faced constraints in different things, whether it was staffing or project timelines. Um, it helps you prioritize and it helps you find that balance between the different challenges that you might be facing. And again, that comes from experience. I'm sure I failed a few times at first when I was starting and may not have made the best decisions. But I always have had, and I'm very lucky this way, I've always had very good leaders who were always willing to help, to guide, to support. Instead of criticizing you when they make a mistake, they help you learn from it and grow from it. Um, and I think that was one of the things that really helped me in my early career. I was able to um, make mistakes here and there and the wrong decisions, but I always had the support and I was always given the opportunity to correct it.
So, ma'am, as you know that market is change this time from the past few years. So, according to you, what are some things? What are some essential things that a student must have to stand out in a for any role?
Um, I think it's important to have some of those skills I mentioned that you learn by being involved with IEEE. You know, it's the leadership skills, the communication skills. Um, it's understanding how technology impacts everything that we do. Um, I always look for when I'm interviewing to see if people were engaged in activities like IEEE or Boy Scouts or whatever it might be, because you know then that they are interested in not only learning, but applying what they've learned. And they're interested in giving back to their community. Um, and I think anything you can do to develop some of those soft skills that they don't teach in school that are so important, I think all of that sets you apart. Or if you say you publish and try engineering, or you promote STEM in younger kids, or do some K through 12 activities, I think all of those make you really stand out.
That's great perspective of you, ma'am. Uh, Ma'am, my next question for you is that if students only focus on technical skill and ignore constraints, what are they missing?
I, I think they're missing that opportunity to grow and to network with others. Um, I think it's important that you balance um, your technical skills, your personal skills, your soft skills, however you want to state them, and learn to apply them equally to what you do. I mean, I know when you're working on an engineering project, your technical skills are going to, you need those then. That's when they come first. When you're working with your peers or, others, maybe it's your communication skills that come first. And you need to learn how to develop all of them and understand when to use them, when they come to your advantage. Um, and I think that just comes from experience.
Ma'am, according to you, what is major constraints that beginner students does not focus on while building anything?
The constraints that they shouldn't focus on.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, I guess it depends on the situation. It depends what the constraint is. If it's time or money or, you know, um, skills. So I think it varies from project to project, how you want to prioritize those constraints, or which ones you want to focus on. Um, if it's time, that one sometimes you can't do much about if you have a deadline. Your customers aren't always flexible. If it's funding, you might have a little more leeway if you can get your manager to release some more funds, or even your customer, go back to them with a new proposal. So I think that depends on the constraint and the situation that you're in and how you deal with it.
Okay, ma'am. Now let's make this a bit quick and fun with a rapid fire round.
With a rapid fire,
Round.
okay,
I will ask question to you one by one, and you have to answer in a single word. In a
a
single word,
single word,
or a
okay,
or a single line. Okay.
okay,
According to you, ma'am, what is much needed? Creativity or constraints?
creativity,
Perfect solution or practical solution?
practical.
Safety or speed?
What was the first word?
Safety.
Safety, okay,
One word for real world engineering.
creativity,
Biggest challenge under constraints.
trade-offs,
One skill for handling constraints.
communication.
And according to you, what are some things that one should indulge in, and things to improve his communication or soft skills?
Soft skills.
Okay. One mistake students make about real engineering.
The impact.
And finally, what makes engineering meaningful despite all of these constraints?
You're giving back to humanity.
Okay, ma'am. So that is what we have to ask you for. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. This conversation truly highlights that engineering is not just about what works in theory, but what works within real world constraint, from trade offs and decision to responsibility and impact. This is what defines true engineering. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for
Yes, thank
joining.
you. And I just want to remind everyone that the IEEE is your opportunity to turn students into well-rounded professionals, combining your technical skills, your leadership experience, global connections, and real-world applications. And I encourage you to stay involved.
That's what we like to get from you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining with us.
Yes,
It's
thank
been,
you for inviting me.
it's been a pleasure to take your interview, ma'am. Thank you so
Have a
much.
great evening.
Thank you, ma'am. You too, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, ma'am.